Hello and welcome to the shop. Today I'm going to turn a couple of dyed quilted maple blanks that I got from Julie and Bennie Watkins over at Woodpecker's Landing. I'll be putting these in a couple of Sierra kits and should be a lot of fun to turn. I think they're going to make beautiful blanks because that wood really has a lot of chatoyance. Let's get over to the lathe and see what we can do. I've got the first of the two blanks chucked up. This is of course the purple one. Look at that. It just you can't really see it yet, but when I turn this and polish it, all those little lines are just going to reflect light. It's going to look so incredible. All right, let me go ahead and get my safety gear on and start turning. I want to show you what's happening here. Take a look at those lines. You can start to kind of see them reflect a little bit. I tell you, these blanks are going to look amazing when they're turned. They're going to look so deep. All right, let's get back at it. First blank successfully turned. I'm going to go ahead now and start sanding this. We'll run through 120, 240, 340, and 400, and then I'll come back and show you what the blank looks like. I just finished turning this blank. What I'm going to do is wipe it with a little denatured alcohol so you can see what it's going to look like. Take a look at that. Now it dries really quickly, but it is going to be incredible when it's got a finish on it. I am going to set it aside for now. We're going to go ahead and get the pink one turned, and then we'll come back and we'll put a finish on both of them at the same time. The pink blank is chucked up. Let's get a quick peek at the surface of it. It's a little tougher to see because it's lighter. Now, in the shop, you can really kind of see the effect over here, the quilting effect. This is going to be just as beautiful as the purple one. Let me go ahead and get her turned. I want to compare the two blanks. It looks like I need to take a little more meat away from the center of the pink blank so that it is closer to the diameter of the purple blank. Let me zoom out just a little bit so you guys can get a better peek at that. But take a look. It's just a little bit thicker in diameter. So we're going to just give it one or two more passes and see if we can't get it closer, because I'd like this to be somewhat of a matching set. I took a couple of more passes, and of course I didn't have the camera turned on, but you didn't really miss much. All I did was take a little meat away, and the blanks are fairly close to the same size. So I'm going to go ahead and get the pink one sanded up, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished, and then we'll get prepped for putting a finish on both of these blanks. Just finished sanding the pink blank. Let's get a reveal on this. It's really going to look amazing when it's got a finish on it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get the lathe cleaned up a little bit, and we're going to get these two blanks transferred to a mandrel with a couple of non-stick bushings, and we'll just go ahead and finish them at the same time. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes to show you that process. I've got the blanks on a standard mandrel with non-stick bushings. I'm just going to go ahead and clean them both one more time, because even though I cleaned them to show them to you, I touched them with my fingers, and any oil from my hands could transfer to the blanks, and that would cause the CA finish to maybe have a blemish in it. It would not adhere properly to the blanks. Once you clean them, you do not want to touch them. We're going to let them sit here and spin for a few minutes, make sure they're completely dry. I still see some moisture in that one, and then I'll come back and start applying a CA finish. I'm ready to apply a CA finish. We're going to start with thin CA. I'll just drill it on and rub it in. This is where you'll get an idea of what the blanks are really going to look like. Notice how they just sort of popped. Let me turn the lathe off. Take a look at that. Isn't it amazing? They really pick up a shine. We're going to coat them with thin CA until the blanks do not have any dry spots. As you look, I like to look at where the light reflects overhead, and as you roll the blank, you'll see a dull spot. That dull spot is where the CA is soaked in, and it needs more CA. I like to put about 4 or 5 coats because I want it to completely soak in and seal the blank before I put the finishing coats over the outside. There's a dry spot right there. All right, I'm going to shut the camera off. We're going to go ahead and get about 4 more coats of thin on these blanks. Then we'll come back and take a look at them. I just finished applying the 5th and final coat of thin CA. As I search over the surfaces of the blank, I don't see any dull spots. I'm ready to go ahead now and start applying my medium CA finish. Don't be afraid to wipe that finish right off on the bushings. It won't hurt them when you break the blank loose from them. The bushings will have a buildup over time, but then I just put them on a mandrel, take a skew and hit them, and just take all of that thick CA over wipe off. Let's flip this off real quick and take a look. Look how shiny they are now, because the top layer laid right on top of all that thin CA, and it just really makes a nice, thick, deep looking finish. I'm going to put 3 coats of medium on these. Then I'm going to check them and make sure they look like they've leveled out and they're not blotchy or anything. I will not be using accelerator. These are going to spin for probably minimum 10 minutes, probably between 10 to 15 minutes. I'll work on something else in the shop, and then when I feel like these have spun long enough, I'll come back and put the 2nd coat on. Then we'll do the same thing between the 2nd and 3rd. And the final coat, we'll just let them dry for 15 minutes or so, just to make sure they're good and dry before we take them off the mandrel and start micro meshing them. I just finished applying 3 coats of CA to my blanks. They are dry. The finish is nice and smooth. It leveled out really well. I'm going to go ahead and get the blanks off of this mandrel because we want to separate the non-stick bushings, and we'll clean up the ends of the blanks. I'll end up probably putting them back on this mandrel to micro mesh them, just because it'll be easier to do them both at the same time than to do them individually. I've removed the knurl nut, and I'm just going to twist the blanks off. Notice they're stuck together. I'll start wiggling the non-stick bushing as I get toward the end. There we go. Broke loose there. Broke loose there. And you'll notice there's a little bit of a fingernail on that blank. We're going to take these over to our disc sander, and we're going to use our squaring jig to get rid of that. So let's go ahead and break this last. Just kind of wiggle it. There it is. It comes loose. That one's got more of a fingernail on it, but once again, not an issue. Take it straight over to the sanding jig, and one quick tap, it'll clean that right up. We'll put them back on the mandrel with regular bushings, and we'll micro mesh them. I've gone ahead and put my blanks back on the mandrel. I'm using standard Sierra bushings, and I'm ready to go ahead and micro mesh them. When you're micro meshing blanks that have a CA finish, you really don't want to spend a lot of time, especially with the first couple of pads. You just want to lightly use them to remove any high spots on the blank. We're going to move quickly through about the first 3, maybe 4 pads, and then we'll slow down a little bit on the lower grit pads because they'll do a nice job polishing. You can already kind of see it's starting to get a little bit of a shine. And you can see I'm just spending a matter of 5, 6, maybe 5 seconds a piece with these pads, because if you use them too aggressively, you're going to take that finish off, and you'll know you've done it because you'll have a nice dull spot on your blank, and then what's going to happen is you're going to have to go back and refinish the blanks. You don't want to have to do that twice. I've got 3 pads left. Okay, we're almost to the end. The final pad is the one we'll use the longest. I think it's like 12,000 grit, and it'll put a final polish on them that'll really make them pop. Get a little bit more water on there. They're looking really good, and they're going to look nice when I shut the lathe off. A little bit more. Like I said, I really want to work the final pad because that's the one that will make the scratches small enough to where they'll be difficult to see with the human eye. All right, take a look at that blank. It's really shiny. It looks great. There are no dull spots, so I did not shine through the finish, or I'm sorry, sand through the finish. What I want to do now is get out my Renaissance wax, and we'll go ahead and put a little wax on both of these blanks. This is a first for me. I'm going to apply the wax with 2 fingers instead of just 1. That way I can do both blanks at the same time. And I'm just going to work the wax in until I feel some friction on my fingers, and then I'll know it's finished. The pink blank is already starting to build up a little bit of friction. All right, here we go. Now the purple blank. I'm starting to feel it on the purple blank. That's good. All right. There we go. That should be good. What I'm going to do now is we'll leave the blanks on this mandrel. They look a little dull because they've got the polish on them. We'll leave them on this mandrel. I'll go ahead and get the buffing wheels on the lathe, and then we will buff these blanks up, and they will have a gorgeous shine when I'm finished. I'm ready to buff the blanks. We're going to get a little rosin on there, and we'll just buff through the blanks one at a time. Put a really nice shine on them. Look at that. You can, oh wow, you can see them pop. It's amazing what the buffing wheel does to the blanks. These are going to look phenomenal. Go ahead and buff the bottom one, then I'll flip this over and buff in the other direction. I don't know that you need to buff in 2 directions. It's just something that I personally like to do. And if it makes you feel good about the pin you're producing, then it's probably the right thing to do. And this does make me feel good. I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit. I'm running at about 1300 RPMs just to kind of buff this off of the blanks. And now we'll take a look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I told you these things just like pop, man. They look so deep. All right, let's get them over to the assembly table and get them pressed into kits. I'm ready for a double press. We're going to start with the purple pin. And I pulled that cap out because, or that bushing out, because this is a spot right here where the die didn't take real well. Must have been, the wood was really dense. And that's where I'm going to place my cap. Let me flip this around like this. We'll put the cap in the little indentation here. Okay, now drop a couple of those up there. Let me adjust to where it looks just the way I want it to look. There we go. Make sure, I'd like to turn that just a little bit. There we go. Want to make sure I get it just right. I'm leaving the bushing on there. This is a case where if I did not use a bushing on this blank and I was a little bit off down here, like at an angle, it would crush that blank. This will protect the blank. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and lay that down. We'll bring them both up and show them both to you at the same time. This will all be fine. I'll just leave the bushings over here to sort of keep everything from going any farther. Let's find my cap. There it is. All right, let's get this in here. Tighten it up a little bit, and let's align everything. This is the tricky part, is you want to make sure you align it so you don't force the pin to be pressed at an odd angle. There we go. There we go. Nice, nice. Take a look at that. Oh, it looks good. Let's pull the bushing out. Let me show you both of these pins. Check that out. We have got a real nice fit up around those caps. I am very happy with that. And look at our bottoms. Not a single nick on them. They're perfectly square, just like they should be, because the bushings protected us. Let's assemble the rest of our pins. Grab us an ink refill. Let's pull a little rubber cap off of it. I've got a spring here. I don't see a difference. It looks like it's the same on both sides, so we'll just go ahead and slide it onto the ink refill. Slide that into the nib. Let's get our transmission on there. Give the transmission a good tight crank. Let's work it a couple times, loosen that grease up. Go ahead and press this into the pink pin. Same thing with the other one. Let's pull the little rubber cap off. Spring. Nib. And transmission. There we go. Just got to sometimes line them up. Give it a good hard crank. All right. There we are. 2 beautiful pins. Take a look at these. They really look amazing. That quilted maple dyed is just absolutely beautiful. I'd like to thank you for joining me for this video. I had a great time making these pins. I think they look absolutely amazing. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with them yet, but I couldn't be happier with how they look. I really appreciate you hanging out with me today. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon, and have a great evening.